I think it had to be a woman. This is like, this bitch the best of all. This is the best person. I thought she did a subpar job.
What were your complaints mostly?
I don't know. I mean, she didn't really seem to unravel the events. I actually don't care that much about the flying thing. I think it's sort of immaterial. What I wanted to know...
It's about the delay, though.
But I wanted her to ask more questions about why there's no corroborating evidence. And, like, you know, like, being 30% more accusatory here. I just understand that nobody wants to offend her because they don't want to be the kind of person that goes after a sexual assault victim. But, like, people didn't need to lick her butthole for half of it here.
Yeah, and I think part of it was a problem with formatting. If you're going to go this route, and maybe there are set of rules that govern this, that I'm not aware of, so maybe there's a reason they couldn't. But it seems to me that if you want to have this prosecutor go after her and really try to sow some seeds of doubt about her story, you'd want to do it over an extended period of time. The fact that it was broken into 5-minute chunks, I think made it a little less effective. Maybe there's a reason they can't do that. I would have liked to see, okay, all Democrats are going to go in your 5-minute chunks, and then Republicans get their chunk all together, and they defer it to this prosecutor. That probably would have been treated as unfair too. If I had complaints about that.
I mean, the flying thing, I get why people want to prove that she was lying about something, but they were never going to be able to do that because there's a million ways for her to worm her way out of that.
Now, as all this testimony, as Ford's testimony happened, I was watching this live. I was following Twitter. I was captivated by this all day on Thursday.
You watched the whole thing?
Mostly.
Yeah.
I didn't expect almost 9 hours, so towards the end I had to step out because I got stuff to do. But I did watch most of it live, and I'm watching Twitter during and after the Ford hearing, and there's a lot of people getting nervous because people found her right. Whether or not you believe her story, I think people found her to be more appealing and or credible than they were expecting. So people were getting nervous, like, oh man, this is going to sell well and Kavanaugh's going to be in trouble. All kinds of people speculating.
She was trained by top attorneys, top social justice warrior attorneys, and major political players in the left. Why were people not expecting this?
Well, there was a fair amount of pessimism circulating, and then Brett Kavanaugh comes out and did exactly the opposite of what I was expecting. I expected the kind of boring, monotone, matter-of-fact judge that I had seen in previous hearings, and instead we got some genuine emotion, genuine fire, genuine just calling out of the bullshit.
Come on.
Wow, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's coming out and he's just spitting fact after fact, and he's doing it in a very emotionally authentic way. It's not boring, it's to the point, and it's aggressive. You know, I mean, some people were critical that maybe he was too snippy or whatever, but it's like, man, people are trying to ruin your life.
I know, if he wasn't so aggressive about it, they would have been like, oh, that just shows that he doesn't have any passion to defend himself, he must be guilty. There's no winning with these people.
No, there's no winning with those people, you know, but I think I would have been a little disappointed myself if he came out very boring and conciliatory and just not fired up in the way he was, and I didn't expect it. I was like, damn, dude, you might have just stayed your job.
Why aren't you working?
I think legitimately, I think this performance did a hell of a lot to put the nomination back in his favor. So he opens, pulling up punches. It's just him calling it out as a
That's why you're
hit.
not working. That's
saying,
why I'm
listen,
getting
this is a national
frustrated. I'm on the
disgrace.
wrong
You guys all
cell.
suck, basically. But what was great about it, and I know you appreciated this, he opened with fire, but he really kind of closed with compassion, softness. He talked about how he believes maybe she was assaulted, but he didn't do it, and how his daughter had prayed with his wife for the woman.
That was so touching. People crying.
I didn't cry, but I think that this was...
Good, that was crap.
I think this was smartly crafted. I think he handled it basically as well as he possibly could.
Crafted, though, I don't think that this was there was as much political intent behind what he said.
I mean, he wrote it himself. He was obviously prepared speaking as well.
Oh, yeah.
The way he structured the flow of ideas or concepts, I think, was well done. Yeah. So this is what his opening statement said.
The day after the allegation appeared, I told this committee that I wanted a hearing as soon as possible. Unfortunately, it took the committee 10 days. In those 10 long days, my family and my name have been totally and permanently destroyed. This confirmation process has become a national disgrace. You have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump, the 2016 election, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. This grotesque and coordinated character assassination will dissuade competent and good people of all political persuasions from serving our country. I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. You've tried hard. No one can question your effort, but your coordinated and well-funded effort to destroy my good name and destroy my family will not drive me out. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. I'm not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time. But I have never done this. The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers. And little Liza, all 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old. We mean no ill will.
Yeah, that's not fake.
No.
That is not fake. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I mean, maybe they would. I don't know. But
I think it's so touching because in that moment you realize, the lengths the left will go to. This is not just affecting him; it's his family. They're a part of this political circus, like you said, and it just really brought it home. It's like I cannot believe they're willing to do this to somebody. It's just the dirtiest thing I think I've ever seen them do.
I appreciate the point you made too about the impacts lasting well beyond his nomination. This is the same way I feel about Black Lives Matter and police relations issues. You have now, to the Democrats in this committee and just the Democrats in the Senate generally, you have now created a massive disincentive for good, decent, qualified people to want to sit in the Supreme Court. In the same way that creating a national environment where police officers are going to be defamed, attacked, all that stuff discourages well-meaning, qualified police officers from serving. Because honestly, if you're next Supreme Court justice guy or gal and you are, you're up for, you're nominated by the president, you have to sit down for at least a day or two and think, do I want to put my family through this?
Yeah, definitely.
Is it worth it? And that's a terrible, unfortunate consideration to have to be making.
Right. It seems like the left will let you get to a certain level without doing stuff like this. But once it's the highest court, they're going to put you through the ringer. Like if this blew over and he wasn't confirmed, do you think they would just let him go back?
Listen, I was mentioning this in my video. I don't think they'd care. I think he would go back to the appeals court. They wouldn't try to remove him.
Right. So they must not care that much about this.
Maybe
they didn't bother when he was a federal judge.
As far as I understand, the removal process is, I think, the same as president. Basically, they have to be impeached, removed from office through the same process in Congress. So I don't think they have the numbers to get it done anyway. But you would think if you were sincere about this, if you actually believed that he was disqualified from the Supreme Court on the basis of these accusations, you should at least try to get it moving in the House and Senate to remove him from the appeals court for the same reason. Why wouldn't, if he's disqualified from the Supreme Court for this reason, presumably he should be disqualified from any federal court for this reason.
Right, exactly.
So that was his opening statement. Again, I think he did a great job at saving his own skin and sticking up for his family and just being a very authentic, heartfelt person. So good for him. When the pressure was on, he rose to the occasion. Democrats on the committee just get silly, grilling him over how many beers he used to drink. There was one exchange.
Baby girl.
Senator, which is like,
yeah.
how many beers do you think is too many?
You doing that's not going to help me draw.
Kind of questions. It's like, yeah, he drank beers. All right. And everybody
What?
on the left is ripping him with all these beer jokes.
I can't draw if your face is on my board.
He wasn't saying the
Yeah.
weird things unprompted. It's because you guys were asking
love you
him
too.
incessantly about how much.
You gotta back up.
It's not just
Back up.
volunteering
No.
unprompted. I like being-
I'm not fighting with you. You
Because
gotta
he's
back up.
digging into it. This is their
There
whole
you go, right there.
strategy.
No.
Prod you with
Right there.
ridiculous allegations
Right
and
there.
you don't
No.
defend yourself. They act like you're insane for defending
No.
yourself.
And then use it as fodder to make a mockery of the situation that you're in, which is very, very fraying.
Yeah. I love that they come out and say
You
he was
need
so
to relax.
angry and partisan. Well, you know when he wasn't angry and partisan? Before you called him an attempted rapist on partisan lines. He was pretty nonpartisan and pretty reasonable when you were talking about, I don't know, court decisions, legal
Yeah.
issues, stuff that is relevant. Okay, so to the boofing point, this is Senator Whitehouse of Rhode Island, I think is where he's from. Anyway, yes, reading through the nitty-gritty details of his high school yearbook for what turned out to be fart jokes.
Next one is,
Senator, what do you like?
Judge, have you, I don't know if it's boofed or boofed, how do you pronounce that?
That refers to flatulence. We were 16.
Okay. And so when your friend Mark Judge said put the same thing in his yearbook page back to you, he had the same meaning, it was flatulence.
I don't know what he did, but that's my recollection. We want to talk about flatulence on age 16 on a yearbook page. I'm game.
Now, this was probably the start of the most heated point in the entire hearing. Dick Durbin really pissed me off because he's trying the whole time. He's trying to trap Kavanaugh into endorsing an FBI investigation of himself. And when Kavanaugh's kind of resistant, he says, "Hey, there's Donald Trump's lawyer Don McGahn over there. Turn to him and tell him you demand an FBI investigation."
And he
of
doesn't
yourself."
even look over.
Yeah.
I've got a suggestion for you. Right now, turn to your left in the front row to Don McGahn, counsel to President Donald Trump. Ask him to suspend this hearing and nomination process until the FBI completes its investigation.
And they kept trying to do this. It's so silly. It's like, first off, the burden is not on the accused to call the cops on himself. That's moronic. But second off, under what authority does can Brett Kavanaugh direct the FBI to do these things?
Right.
Like, first, you guys are senators. By the way, you senators have every bit of investigative authority that the FBI has, and Donald Trump's going to have to direct them to do it. Now, that's what's happened anyway. I get it, he's directing him to the president's lawyer, but Brett Kavanaugh saying this to the lawyer is not a directive. It's
Right.
like, the only thing you could do is say, please investigate me, I would love it if you would. Well, the burden's not on him to do that as somebody who's accused. Think about this in the context of any other crime or wrongdoing. Somebody comes to my house and says, like, hey, I think you stole my bike. My answer is, I did not. It is not. Okay, hold on. I got my phone right here. 911, I'll take care of this. I'll have the cops come over and investigate me right now. That's not how it works, man. You're the one making the accusation. You can provide the proof. By the way, you're the senator. You're the one with subpoena power. You're the one who
Right.
can investigate this fully.
Not to mention the FBI has already said that they can't really do anything about this. This is purely a delay tactic.
Yeah. This was immediately prior, because I was really pissed off about this, tweeting that Dick Durbin had just created several campaign ads against himself.
Yeah.
Really living up to his name and being a real dick. And then Lindsey Graham responds with what is a real Spartacus moment. You know, he really out Cory Bookered Cory Booker with this one. So this is, obviously this guy, it's Lindsey Graham. Just, I don't know, talking real talk and being really pissed off, and I appreciate it.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat
This
open,
guy.
and hope you win in 2020. You said that, not me. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. You're looking for a fair process? You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
Suddenly I was like, what the hell? I'm a Lindsey Graham fan now? How did this happen?
And he's not gay?
I don't know, but I did appreciate that. There's several examples, Rosie O'Donnell included, people, leftists ripping Lindsey Graham, calling him a closeted person, or just ripping him as gay because homophobia.
Maybe though.
Fair enough, but my point is, homophobia is fine when they do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the irony.
It's rich coming from a Rosie O'Donnell.
So that was how the hearing played out. Did you have any more commentary on that?
No, I mean, I would like to point out that no new information has been released.
Pretty
Nothing.
much.
Not a
The only new
single-
information I got was the full degree to which this has been politicized by Dianne Feinstein. That was the information that was new to me.
We knew that before, I thought.
I didn't-
Connected
maybe-
with the attorney, I had heard that before.
Yeah, maybe that was out and I hadn't seen it because it was new to me in this hearing. So perhaps I missed it. Yeah. Anyway, so then the committee meets again on Friday because they're going to vote to advance Kavanaugh to the full Senate floor to get him confirmed. And reporting comes out in the morning. Jeff Flake is a yes. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So that means all 11 Republicans on the committee are going to vote in favor of this. If Jeff Flake's voting yes in committee, he's going to vote yes on the floor. That's one more sort of on the fence Republican we can check off, and it looks like the numbers are there to get this guy confirmed. Not exactly how it played out in practice, though. It got very complicated. Starting with Democrats realizing they don't have, well, actually, I'm going to kind of go in a weird order here, because what happened first was Jeff Flake gets confronted by crazies, but I'll return to that in a minute and show you how the start of the actual meeting went, because Democrats realized they don't have the votes, and so they're going to throw a fit, and they're going to walk out. So here go Senators Harris, Hirono, and Blumenthal deciding that they're too virtuous for this, and they're going to leave.
Trials have rules based on common sense notions of fairness and due process, not the other way around. A person had allegations made against him in a public way, and his reputation and livelihood were at stake. It was only fair that his accuser had the burden of proof. In my opinion, this wasn't met.
Right, so they're walking out basically on the idea that they don't have evidence for their claims. That's why they're walking out. Now, they walked out in silence. Blumenthal later returned to offer some commentary, but of course you're not going to get Cory Booker to walk out without making a hero of himself. So here's Cory Booker making a hero of himself before he leaves.
I cannot sit here. I cannot participate in what I know history is going to look back as a dark moment again. In the same way we look back at the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas Trust, I cannot participate.
Do we
should
though?
not brush aside her comments.
Yeah.
We should not belittle her testimony. We should listen to her. We should listen to women. And we should thoroughly investigate this before moving forward. To do any other thing is to diminish the truth, diminish the issue of sexual harassment in this country, and to again relegate ourselves to what I believe is a dark element of our society. So that, sir, I will leave.
And so he leaves. And the irony is, they're all leaving, but they ended up getting what they want mostly, which is a supplemental FBI investigation because Jeff Flake ends up flaking. Now, why did Jeff Flake flake? Maybe he was planning to do this at the committee. Maybe it was a direct result of this confrontation. I have not seen a clear explanation either way. But what happened to Jeff Flake is before he gets to the meeting on Friday morning, he is confronted by, there's a whole bunch of people, but the two main women are Maria Gallagher, who is a New York resident, apparent sexual assault victim, or so she says, and Anna Maria Archila, who is the co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy. Surprise, surprise, a Soros-funded nonprofit.
Every time.
It's so kind of cringy and cliche and meme-like to blame Soros. But these people, it's like Jared Holt and Anna Maria Archila, whose #1 resume line is actual Soros shill.
Yeah.
Like that's their #1 qualification in this role, actual Soros shill. So this female actual Soros shill and her sexual assault victim friend start yelling at Jeff Flake. And Jeff Flake, of course, staying in character, just doesn't stick up for himself in any way. He just sits there.
Yeah, he puts his out.
And then takes it. So brace yourself, it's a tough one to watch.
What you are doing is allowing someone who actually violated a woman to sit in the Supreme Court.
I was actually assaulted and nobody believes me. I didn't tell anyone
to ignore that. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America. That they don't matter, they should just keep it to themselves. That's what you're telling all of these women. That's what you're telling me right now. Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're telling me that my assault doesn't matter.
You're allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions, unwilling to hurl the harm that he has done to one woman, actually 3 women, and repair it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
May I respond, ma'am?
You keep your comment out. Thank you.
Saying thank you is not an answer. This is about the future.
He's
of
gonna
our
put up his
country.
female staffer to
I
try
know.
to move these
Should have
people
been like,
aside.
No siento, mamacita.
Be like, listen, bitch, I'm retiring. Your experience doesn't matter.
I know.
That's what he should have done.
That
Like,
crooked nosed pussy. Like,
What do you
just
have to
stands there
protect?
looking at his feet. Like, tell these women to get fit. And that one chick, that shrill chick, she sounded just like that girl from Yale. This is a home. This is a home
Yeah,
here.
Jerrilyn Luther. I'll never forget her name.
There's just something about this leftist, whiny, feminist voice. Listen to me about my oppression, my victim points.
Now, if you wanted to do what I'm advocating in more taste, you could say, listen, I'm sorry for what happened to you, but your case has no bearing on this case, and I have not seen sufficient evidence in this case. So if you
You're
have
wrong.
evidence about this case, I'm happy to see it. If you don't, I'm sorry, I need to get to a meeting. Get the hell out of my way. You can do it that way.
Are we moving on the question of the 19?
Well, I'm still... talk to me at the end of the show. We have more to watch. It wouldn't be appropriate timing just yet. Because Jeff Flake goes to this meeting and he surprises everybody, including his Republican colleagues, because he says, I'm going to vote yes to get him through committee, but I won't vote yes on the full Senate floor until we have a supplemental FBI investigation limited in time and scope. So what this means is he's asking the president, and the president has since agreed to do this, to have the FBI look into this claim specifically and spend no more than 1 week doing it. Here's Jeff Flake being Jeff Flake at the committee meeting on Friday morning.
That we can have a short pause and make sure that the FBI can investigate. My understanding is that some of us would have to, and I'm prepared to do it, make a request to the White House to ask the FBI to do that investigation. It would be short and limited in scope to the current allegations that have been made.
Mr. Chairman.
But I would just encourage the Democrats who we've talked to before to endorse that kind of thing, that we can then move on.
Mr. Chairman.
Because of the 2-hour rule, we're adjourned.
What?
The 2-hour rule. When did we come in?
There's another accidental case for term limits. Yeah, all right, we're out of here. And then 10 seconds later, Feinstein. What? Yeah, these are the people running our country. Seriously, that's an exchange from a nursing home that we just
God,
watched.
I know. This is the
We're having
dude.
casserole for dinner. What? Like that's what we're watching.
Oh my god. Oh
Yeah.
my god. We totally lost control, haven't we?
So Trump has agreed to go along with this. Even though I am no fan of Jeff Flake for doing this, I guess I can see a bright side or a silver lining. I'm 99.9% confident that this is going to turn up nothing. And then, once you've done this, you have kneecapped their #1 rallying point that they've been complaining about this whole time. Once the investigation is out with 0 results, no more. But you don't give them any more because they're going to try to do something else, as we'll see in a moment here.
But Hirono, and they're demanding no time limits,
Yeah.
limited scope on the investigation. We can't concede that. This has already
No.
gone too far.
No. And the problem, even with conceding this, is you bought another week of time. Guess what happened with the last week you bought? We got Michael Avenatti walking out with his gang rape accusations. We got dog-face lady from Yale, as you called her, who says that she had his dick wagged in her face.
Oh yeah,
Everybody forgot about that.
Deborah Ramirez. Brett Kavanaugh wagged his dick in Debbie's face.
Yeah, I remember he said Brett Kavanaugh specifically. That's in the article. What nonsense. Okay. So, as I said, it's not totally clear if Jeff Flake intended on doing this
No.
before that
No.
confrontation at the elevator.
I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe he got cornered by those shrill hags and he was like, okay.
He might have. I don't know if he intended to do this or not, but the point is, dude, you cannot concede to these people. You cannot try to appease them, because guess what they're going to do? guess what they're going to do?
Smear you
They're gonna-
anyway.
They're going to realize that this is an effective tactic, and then they're going to still smear you. So look at this crap. This particular tweet got a lot of attention this week. This is from the Think Progress editor, linking the clip of the Flake encounter, and it says, "Tell me again why we shouldn't confront Republicans where they eat, where they sleep, and where they work until they stop being complicit in the destruction of our democracy." Scroll down a little bit, you get your number one reason why. Where's this guy? This is my favorite answer. "Where I eat, you'll leave with a broken nose. Where I work, you'll leave in handcuffs. Where I sleep, you'll leave in a body bag." That's why.
Yep.
That's why you might not want to. And then this former Hillary advisor saying much the same thing. This guy was a senior advisor to Hillary at the State Department. To Democrats who say confronting Republicans in certain settings isn't who we are and civility above all, ask yourselves, if she had seen Jeff Flake at dinner last night, would you tell her she shouldn't have interrupted him at a restaurant? Every vote counts, every vote counts, every voice counts. So again, you're telling them that this is a viable, effective tactic, and they're going to rally around this as they're doing. But here's the worst part. Jeff Flake, if you're trying to protect Jeff Flake, that doesn't work either. Here's the Women's March coming out after the fact and saying, Senator Jeff Flake is a rape apologist. And not only him, but every other Republican on the committee. They're all rape apologists. Here are all their faces. This is why you don't appease these people.
Right.
You're going to put up this garbage anyway.
Yeah. Yes, they will. I don't know why
Absolutely
anybody thinks
atrocious.
that appeasement works. It doesn't.
No. And you had mentioned it earlier. You give them this one, okay, we'll give them this one limited FBI investigation. We'll throw them this bone. Guess what? Not good enough. As you said, Mazie Hirono and the rest of them are going to come out. Well, really, this investigation that we've been demanding this whole time, it's really a farce. It needs to be unlimited and go on forever as long as we want it.
So based on what we've agreed to now, if he's confirmed, can they do any further investigation of this?
I mean, the only thing to remove him from the court would be the exact same impeachment process as the president.
So this is it. If this is it.
I mean, unless he's impeached, yeah, this is it.
I wonder where the work will start. Who might do?
Probably not. I've seen talk that if they gain control of the House, they want to write articles of impeachment against presumably Justice Kavanaugh, President of the United States, and Clarence Thomas. I've seen that.
Oh, really?
But they don't have the numbers in the Senate. Remember, you got to have a supermajority in the Senate to get it done. Not going to happen. They're not going to take the Senate for one, but a supermajority in the Senate, absolutely. Here's, as we said, don't appease these people because it's never good enough. Here's Mazie Hirono saying, well, actually, what we've been demanding for these couple weeks, that's actually a farce. We need more.
From what you've learned about the FBI investigation, will it be a credible investigation?
That's going to be the big outstanding question. And I would think that Jeff Flake and the other senators who are going for this investigation will call for it. There's time, you know. The thing is that every Senate vote matters, and there's time to get to the bottom of it. Even if it's 7 days, that's bad enough. But then to limit the FBI as to the scope and who they're going to question, that really. I wanted to use the word farce, but that's not the kind of investigation that all of us are expecting the FBI to conduct.
Yeah, we want an investigation in perpetuity until we can reach some kind of...
What? An investigation specific to the allegations we made? We wanted something unlimited into any and all
Not
possible
what we were expecting.
Oh my God. Now, you know who joined the chorus of people demanding unlimited FBI investigation? Senator Bernie Sanders wrote a letter to Chuck Grassley saying, not good enough, need an FBI investigation into everything he possibly ever could have done, not just this one particular allegation. Here's one point of optimism on this whole circus. Chuck Grassley responded with this letter. Did you get a chance to read this letter? This is fantastic. Chuck Grassley, or presumably his staff, because he's too busy eating pudding, whatever it is he does at the nursing home, writes to Bernie, Dear Bernie, thank you for your letter today. As you know, on July 10th, 2018, you stated we must mobilize the American people to defeat Judge Kavanaugh. This happened less than 24 hours after Judge Kavanaugh's nomination was announced. As you also know, all senators have had access to 307 judicial opinions Judge Kavanaugh wrote during his 12 years on the bench, over 500,000 pages of documentation, a bajillion million things that my committee has investigated, basically. Nevertheless, you made your choice in less than 24 hours. your public statements clearly reveal how unimportant it is to you to review any facts related to this nomination. So can you imagine my surprise at receiving your letter regarding the supplemental FBI investigation? This supplemental FBI background investigation was requested by undecided members of both parties. Am I to take your letter that you are now undecided and willing to seriously engage with the Senate's advice and consent constitutional duties related to the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh? If I can assist, if I can give you any need in making your decision, I look forward to the conversation. So that was very interesting from Chuck Grassley. Well, Bernie, are you telling me you're actually open to new information? Because you haven't been.
You didn't get that last punch. I appreciate your raising concerns, which others have already raised at this 11th hour.
Yeah, well done. Well done. So, of course, where do we stand now? We've bought a little bit more time. We've bought a little bit more time for this to drag out a little bit longer. And of course, it's time, as I've speculated, many people speculated, we'll probably see more accusations or accusers trot out. We'll probably see more bullshit. But certainly, we've seen plenty more time for media to engage in the smearing. And that's what I want to talk about next. But I don't know if we want to take a break before we get into that. Should we keep going?
Let's finish off Kavanaugh.
Okay. So, a few specific smears that are resulting in this delay. I don't know if this is a smear as much as it's just silliness, but Chris Cuomo on CNN is really trying to get to the bottom of whether or not Kavanaugh is really a virgin, like he claimed to be on Fox News. So he has on one of his Yale classmates.
Baby girl.
Show to,
what are you doing?
Ask the hard-hitting questions.
Now look, not that this matters, but again, it's about the truth of what he says about himself. This is not a trial about guilt or innocence. It's a job.
You stink.
It's a credibility measurement for the highest integrity position.
Yes, you do.
We have. And I have to tell you, I don't believe it's disqualifying
Wormy
reporting in
language.
high school or in college. But him telling the truth about himself is a more relevant standard. Was Brett Kavanaugh known at Yale as a virgin?
I have no idea.
I just want to know, because that's something he points out about himself that I know, having gone to the same school, and it's not so big a school. It's got a big name, but it's not that big a community. It's pretty small. That's the kind of thing that would have been known.
Everyone knew I was a virgin at Yale. That's pretty much what he's saying there. I mean, what silliness. It's like, okay, I get it. You're trying to judge whether he lies or not. Is that the relevant question, or is the relevant question about how we've descended to the point of evaluating whether somebody was a virgin or not in 1981?
Right.
This is so silly, so absolutely silly. But that's not even close to the worst of it. This op-ed, I guess it's an op-ed that USA Today put out, Friday or Saturday, whenever this was. This is an archived version of it because they've changed it so much. But Brett Kavanaugh had mentioned in his opening statement, like, listen, you guys have ruined me to the point I don't know if I can coach my little girl's basketball team anymore. You've painted me as a sexual predator. It might be tough for me to be a coach in such a setting. And so this op-ed vets that claim, whether or not he'd be blocked from it, but listen to how it closes. The nation is deeply divided. Sometimes it feels like we don't agree on anything anymore. But credibly accused sex offenders should not coach youth basketball, girls or boys, without deeper investigation. Can't we all agree on that?
No.
First off, the accusation was not related to pedophilia. Right. To imply that he's a child predator in addition to sexual predator is another degree of unsubstantiation. And it's just outrageous. Now, USA Today has updated their story. Now it says, opinion, is Brett Kavanaugh right that he can no longer coach girls basketball? I guess it was op-ed the whole time. The editor's note said, Supreme Court Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh has told several members of the Judiciary Committee he loves coaching his daughter's girls basketball team, but said in testimony, thanks to what some of you guys have done, I might not be able to do that again. The intent of this commentary was to address that question. The column was re-edited to more closely reflect the intent and labeled to reflect
That is not a
writer's
retraction.
opinion. And they also took out that last sentence about, can't we all agree that accused sexual predators shouldn't be coaching girls basketball teams? They just took that out. So yeah, no retraction, no apology, just some kind of slimy edits. This is some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. I mean, I get it, it's an op-ed page, do whatever you want on your stupid op-ed page, but Is it really like, what are the ethics of publishing unsubstantiated accusations of pedophilic tendencies?
Right.
You don't take that seriously? I mean, USA Today, if they want garbage enough for their underbarrel chainsaw attachments to AR-15s or whatever else they're talking about, this is where all of this stuff crosses into the realm of just wildly immoral. Not just a breach of our constitutional norms and duties, but actually wildly immoral.
Yeah, I mean, do you understand where I'm coming from when I'm like, I don't know if I can coexist with people like this?
I've
will
never
do
felt
something like this to a man. I've never felt more in my life like I can't share a nation with these people.
I've never felt more pessimistic about our cultural divide than I do right now. I mean, I've
Exactly.
already watched them shit on free speech, not just the legal concept, but the cultural concept repeatedly. Now, as far as I understand, you're guilty upon accusation, whether or not in a court of law you're guilty in the court of public opinion on accusation. That's not a country in which I can live. I will not tolerate that. I don't believe in that. It seems like I've framed it a long time ago as our cultural divide is basically a question of Bill of Rights or not. And we're seeing every pillar, every cultural value that's enshrined in the Bill of Rights fall down, one by one by one.
And the founding fathers, they did foresee this, which is why we have the presumption of innocence. It's integral. It is an innate part of our judicial system, of our legal system. We have to observe it.
Yeah, it's not just what's right from a criminal justice perspective, but it's what's right in a political perspective too, because what you're seeing is the weaponization, political weaponization of an accusation. You know, it's not just to treat the accused fairly from a criminal justice perspective. It's to make sure our politics don't devolve into total nonsense like this.
It's so disappointing. I mean, I knew that the left was evil, but this still has, if I'm being totally truthful, this has shocked me. It's shocked me.
Well, it gets worse.
Ah!
The last piece of the smearing that I have that I want to hit on before we're through with this topic is what happened on Saturday Night Live last night. So Saturday Night Live is back with their it was their season premiere last night. Their show is back for this new season, and they opened with Matt Damon as a angry frat boy, Brett Kavanaugh. And I get it, like they have fun at current events, and they put fun at current events and all that. That's their bit. The show's been highly politicized under Trump, especially. I get it. I still, even as somebody who considers himself mostly a free speech absolutist, this really bugs me. The laughter, the joking at the ruining of a man on completely unsubstantiated terms, the idea that that's just our Saturday night entertainment and it's all comical and hilarious. I just find it pretty slimy, to be honest. So let's watch through. They also hit it again in Weekend Update, their kind of comedy news segment during the show. So let's watch their open first, then we'll talk about it, and then we'll watch the brief Weekend Update segment. So this is how the show started last night. I've had to distort it because they're copyright Nazis and everything. So sorry for the presentation.
What? Judge Kavanaugh, are you ready to begin?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm gonna start at an 11. I'm gonna take it to about a 15 real quick. Real quick. This is my speech. I wrote it myself last night while screaming into an empty bag of Doritos. I'm here tonight because of a sham orchestrated by the Clintons and George Soros and Kathy Griffin. And what I've seen from the monsters on this committee makes me want to puke, and not from beer. Dr. Ford has no evidence, none. Meanwhile, I've got these. I've got these calendars, these beautiful, creepy calendars. I'm not backing down, you sons of bitches. I don't know the meaning of the word stop.
I just want to point out that Democrats in this committee have acted like cowards. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to hide behind the female prosecutor who we hire as a human shield.
So hi, I've got about 4,000 loose papers on this weird little baby desk they set from Romania.
Lindsey Graham?
And shake my finger and get rid of the tomato for 15 minutes.
And I know I'm supposed to shut up, because I'm a single white male, 5'10", uncut. Shut up, because this is a bunch of CRAP crap. This ain't no due process. You know what this is, Judge Kavanaugh? You know what this is?
Is this a real question?
This is hell. That's what it is. It's hell.
We had a couple thousand beers along the way. Especially my good friend Mark Judge, who can't remember huge chunks of his life, but is somehow my key witness. So when I'm angry, you're damn right. But if you think I'm angry now, you just wait till I get on that Supreme Court, because then you're all gonna pay. Give me a count.
Your thoughts?
I mean, I don't want to stop people from being able to say stuff like this, but I can still find it just horribly distasteful. Can you imagine them like laughing in this way at a victim of sexual assault, even though she is almost certainly the one that's lying here?
Right. If they had done a similar presentation of Ford, imagine the outrage.
Yeah, and
imagine
the most important thing here is that the show's no longer funny. Like, do you remember when you used to like to watch? I remember when I was a kid, I would love to watch Saturday Night Live, and now it's just like
This is partisan propaganda, and we'll see more of it in a moment. This is not. I get it that it's their job to jab fun at the news and to jab fun at those in power. The difference is they're not equally distributing their jabs here. They're doing this to promote a particular perspective about the way the hearing went, and all of the jabs are in one particular direction. And trust me, there's plenty of ways to make fun of that hearing. I'm not saying you can't, but they're not doing it in the spirit of just comedy. They're doing it in the spirit of leaving the viewer with a particular understanding of that hearing. And I find that to be, well, obviously it's a perspective with which I disagree, but the way that they are treating a life-ruining accusation so flippantly, like, isn't it funny that he acts stupidly defending himself from a rape accusation? Isn't that hilarious? Like, not really. No. I don't find that particularly funny. No, I don't. But to the points, I wanted to address the points that are, because again, comedy is best, and comedy always has to have a kernel of truth. It has to be based on some truth, maybe some taboo truth that you're kind of exposing or whatever. But the premises here are just silly. So you heard Matt Damon as Kavanaugh there screaming about how this is a political hit, and it was Kathy Griffin and Soros and stuff. Why is that absurd then? Like, this was clearly politicized by Feinstein. That's demonstrably true. There's plenty of evidence for it. The activist who confronted Flake is she runs a Soros-funded organization. So why is that absurd to make that claim? I love the part where he holds up his calendars, and the implication there is, oh, what pathetic evidence. What silly evidence that is. Right. Meanwhile, when he says about Ford having no evidence, that's true. And then to the people who made this, where does the burden of proof lie?
Right.
Because Kavanaugh doesn't actually have a burden of proof, so I don't care if his proof is silly. Even though I do kind of agree that the calendars are not that meaningful to me in the whole case. But the burden is not on him to prove his innocence, so I just don't care under any circumstances. As we said, they still rip the Republicans for using the female prosecutor. They still make fun of them for that, even though they were considering doing it. Lindsey Graham screams about how this isn't due process. Like, what's the joke? This hasn't been due process. I mean, that's just to me, that's a statement of fact, not a joke. He says at the end, does Matt Damon's Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge is my key witness, and he doesn't even remember anything. First off, Mark Judge is not Kavanaugh's key witness, he's Ford's key witness. We know about Mark Judge because of Ford's testimony.
Right.
So I don't understand how you're saying it's Kavanaugh's key witness. And then again, as I mentioned, just the entire theme that the anger is silly or unjustified in the context of having a life-ruining accusation thrown. The premise that it's silly to react emotionally in that setting is not a premise I buy. I think that's fine.
And I didn't think that he was that angry. I thought he was stern when he showed the appropriate amount of anger. If he would have been meek, that then they would have been mocking that as well.
Yeah. And there's even more. Listen to what, I forget what the name of this host on Weekend Update is, but listen to what he has to say. This just pissed me off.
I just want to remind everybody that all this yelling and crying
happened at this dude's job interview? I mean, typically when you're asked about a sexual assault and your drinking problem at a job interview, you don't get the damn job. I don't know if Mr. Kavanaugh actually has a history of assault or if he actually has a drinking problem, but I do know that he might, and you shouldn't be on the Supreme Court if you might. You shouldn't be on the People's Court if you might. Sometimes might is enough. I mean, I don't want to pet your dog if he might bite me. I don't want to leave you in my house if you might be a crackhead. I'm not going to have sex with you if you might have dated Charlie Sheen.
It's just insufferable. It's so stupid. Okay, typically, if you're asked about assault or your drinking problem during a job interview, you don't get the job. Well, typically, you don't assign guilt without evidence.
Yeah.
Typically. Now, the rest of his hypotheticals about, well, I'm not going to pet your dog if he might bite me. Okay, granted. But what you're saying in all of those hypotheticals is, based on suspicion, I might disassociate myself. Okay, fair enough. You're not talking about disassociating from Brett Kavanaugh. You're talking about meddling in his life, ruining his life. You don't say, well, your dog might bite me, so I'm going to vandalize your home.
Right.
Well, you slept with Charlie Sheen, so I'm going to key your car.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works, man. You're not talking about just leaving him alone because you have suspicion about him. You're talking about ruining his life, meddling in his life because you have suspicion. Those are bunk hypotheticals. That whole thing just pisses me off.
Yeah. Bring back Norm Macdonald.
They just eat it up. You go over to this SNL YouTube page and it's just all the SEALs clapping for this. They all think this is hilarious and great. Meanwhile, it's like, I remember when comedy took jabs at everybody and we believed in fundamental principles of this country. I remember those days.
Yeah, but that was before they got a bunch of diversity hires to do comedy for SNL. It's all like black dudes and chicks. Why do you think the show's not funny anymore? Norm Macdonald. Bring Norm Macdonald back.
Could be. And, it's like I said, recently I went back and watched some SNL stuff that was like 10 years old that I still do find funny. Almost all of it's not political. It's like
they did a lot of political stuff back in the day.
Yeah, I'm not saying they haven't, but I'm saying the funniest stuff that I saw, that I remember when I used to watch it attentively, say 10 years ago, was like recurring bits that were just funny, stupid scenarios. They were kind of like mini sitcoms. Just funny, stupid scenarios. They were kind of like mini sitcoms. They weren't like political jabs. You do political jabs, I don't care, but I
be on more of the trivial stuff.
Do Alec Baldwin's Trump all you want. I'll tune in or not. I don't have a problem with this, but this one I actually have kind of an ethical, moral problem with laughing like seals at the concept of ruining a man's life without due process. I don't find that funny. Now, in case you weren't pissed off at Matt Damon enough, you might think, hey, is that Matt Damon of Hanging Out with Harvey Weinstein fame? Yes, correct. That's Matt Damon of Hanging Out with Harvey Weinstein fame and then giving us a lecture about sexual purity and all that. But listen to Matt Damon. This clip was circulated by who's the conservative Baldwin? Which Baldwin brother is it? He was
Stephen, I believe.
I can't remember. I forget which Baldwin was circulated.
Not
on
Alan.
Not Alan. Yeah, I don't. I can. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Billy? Is that one of the Baldwins?
One of the Baldwins was circulating this clip of Matt Damon talking within the last year about how bad false allegations are and what he would do hypothetically to fight them if he were faced with one.
10 years ago, if you made a claim against me and I had a big movie coming out, okay, I have a $100 million movie, or I have a movie that is personally important coming out, and close to the release of that film, you said Matt Damon grabbed my butt and stuck his tongue down my throat. We would then go to mediation and organize a settlement, right? I don't want this out there, now with the internet and, not the internet wasn't there 10 years ago, but with social media, these stories they get gasoline for them. So the moment a claim is made, if you make that same claim today to me, I would be scorched earth. I'd go, I don't care if it costs me $10 million to fight this in court with you for 10 years. You're not taking my name from me. You're not taking my name and my reputation from me. I've worked too hard. I've worked too hard for it, and I earned it. And you can't just blow me up like that.
But I will help to ruin another man's name. I'm just fine with that. That's totally cool.
The live chat did point out that it was Adam Baldwin, who's not a Baldwin.
Yeah, I just looked at it. Adam Baldwin, who I mistakenly called one of the Baldwin brothers. So for that,
You are fake news. Very fake news.
I just saw that.
Ah, crap. put it on the wrong layer again.
But the point here is like, isn't that rich? It's like, dude, what you're talking. Okay, you just talked about what you would fight with millions of dollars if it cost you. Then participated in the very thing you said you would fight.
I mean, I think his defense would be like, well, he's clearly guilty. I didn't do anything.
Oh, of course,
he's accusations.
Yeah, he's clearly guilty, of course. Based on what evidence? Oh, right, the zero evidence that you referenced in your skit that was supposedly a joke somehow. This is sick stuff, man. We have a legitimately sick culture.
I know.
It's bumming me out. Now, very last thing I have to say on Kavanaugh, I swear, because we've been talking about it for over an hour now. Public perception on this. You might wonder, have people's opinions shifted since the hearing? Well, there is a poll out from Reuters and Ipsos, and it's basically the same thing that we observed last week when we talked about this. It's roughly speaking, a third of Americans believe the allegations against Kavanaugh, a third don't, and a third don't know. So we've really not seen
Nothing has changed, but they still got their extension.
Pretty much, and the whether you believe the accusations or not breaks pretty much entirely along party lines. If you're a Democrat, you believe them. If you're Republican, you're not. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're somewhere in the middle. These questions are purely partisan.
Ooh, stop.
I'm seriously dismayed. I'm regretting the day that that the presumption of innocence and